Okay? But a lot of you so-called blacks and Hispanics, you believe you live in post-racial America, so you thought that was the past. But that's not the past, because the so-called white man is killing you every single day, every single year, year in, year out, since you got to America. Okay? But if you don't want to deal with the past, you say that's the past, we don't have to deal with the past. So let's deal with recent times. Let's go back the last 20 years. Let me give you some examples of the scriptures in real life. There was a man by the name of Anthony Baez. Because a lot of you so-called blacks and Hispanics, you have a very, very short memory. So let me help you jog your memory for a second. Do you remember Anthony Baez from the Bronx, who was out in front of his building where he lives, and you had two racist police officers in a car? And Anthony Baez, one of our so-called Hispanic, Latino brothers and sisters, who is an Israelite, was outside playing football with one of his friends. And they were throwing the football back and forth. And what happened was Anthony Baez, he threw the football a little too far, and the football hit the squad car. What happened to Anthony Baez after the football hit the squad car? He was found dead, man. That police officer, I believe his name was Francis Lavoni, murdered him. Okay? And guess what? Family didn't get no justice. You so-called Negroes, you forgot about that. But the Bible says our possessors slay us, and what happened? That man didn't do no time. Let's move on. Do you remember Eleanor Bumpers? Remember how the so-called policeman knocked her, banged her door down, and murdered her in her house? What happened to those officers? Nothing. Let's move on. Remember Oscar Grant out there in California? He was riding the train, came out the train station, and the policeman murdered him in cold blood in front of everybody on that train. What happened to those officers? For the most part, they got a slap on the wrist. Pretty much not guilty. Okay? Let's move on. Remember Patrick Dorismond? Patrick Dorismond, right? Because you have a lot of people that say, well, if you listen to the police, if you follow the instructions of the police, nothing's going to happen to you. Well, what happened to Patrick Dorismond? Patrick Dorismond was minding his own business, walking down the street. The police officers undercover came up to him and tried to force him to buy marijuana from them. He told them, I don't smoke marijuana. I don't smoke that. I don't want that. And he got offended. Remember, this is an undercover officer. All right? And he turned down the marijuana and he got indignant. Like, yo, why are you trying to sell me that? You know what happened to Anthony Baez? Patrick Dorismond? They killed him. And what happened to those officers? Nothing. Let's move on. Remember Kamani Gray? A lot of these names you so-called Negroes are like, what is he talking about? This is happening to you every day. And I'm only dealing with the last 20 years. Remember Kamani Gray? Never heard about that, right? Well, let me tell you, he was murdered. And guess what? Nobody did any time for that. Let's move on. How about Kendrick McDade? You don't know nothing about that, right? Let's move on. Timothy Russell, okay? Timothy Russell. The police fired 137 rounds. Let me repeat that again. The police department fired 137 rounds at this unarmed man. By the way, everybody I'm speaking about was unarmed. What happened to those guys? Nothing. Okay, let's move on. Timothy Stansbury, remember him? He got shot in his hallway by a scared, pussified punk undercover cop that thought he had a gun. He was unarmed. You know what Police Commissioner Ray Kelly said? It was an unfortunate accident. Like always, all right? So you know what it means when it says it's an unfortunate accident, right? Nobody did any time. Let's move on, right? How about Orlando Barlow, right? He was shot while he was on his knees. The police shot him while he was on his knees. Let's move on. Aaron Campbell, okay? The police officers told him to walk backwards towards them. You know how when they make a stop of you in a car, they tell you to turn the engine out, throw the keys out the window, open the door, get out the car, and walk backwards. Well, he complied. He was walking backwards. Guess what? They shot him in his back. Did those guys do any time? No. Let's move on, okay? How about Victor Steen, okay? The police officers shot him outside the driver's window. Shot him out the driver's window. He was on a bicycle, riding his bike. Shot him out the window. Then they rolled the car over his body. How about that? How about that? Okay? This is post-racial America for you. Let's continue, all right? Ramarley Graham, remember him? Marley Graham was what, 2 years ago? Okay? The police followed him into his house. Didn't have a search warrant, didn't have no business going in his house. They followed him in his house, thought he had a gun, thought he was selling drugs, like always, and shot him dead in his bathroom. What happened to those guys? Nothing. And now you have Eric Garner. And next year, it's going to be somebody else. So read Zechariah chapter 11, verse 4 again.
Thus saith the Lord my God, feed the flock of the slaughter.
And we're the only ones doing that, feeding the flock of the slaughter. We're the only ones teaching the truth. I'm talking about the Israelites. Because well, let me say most of us, I don't want to use a blank paper, most of us tell like it is, because you got some that don't. We tell it like it is. We're feeding the flock of the slaughter with the truth, and we ain't holding nothing back. Go ahead.
Whose possessors slay them, and hold themselves not guilty.
And all these people that I just read to you, the so-called white man slayed them, and they were held not guilty. All the names that I read you, those people were all unarmed and murdered in cold blood. And it's always an accident. It's always, oh, I thought he had a gun. It's always, oh, he reached for something. It's always, oh, it looked like he had something in his waist. Or I was scared. Or he lunged at me. It's like they have a written thing within the police department that if you shoot somebody unarmed, this is what you're going to say. That's why they have that rule where when an officer shoots somebody, they don't have to come and testify. I believe it is for 48 hours. I could be wrong. It's either 24 hours or 48 hours. They don't have to speak to anybody. You know why? It gives them time to come up and concoct a lie. See? But this is videotaped. Just like Rodney King, California was videotaped. But then again, those officers got off too, with videotape. So how do we know that the so-called white man that did this is not going to get off of videotape? See? So America doesn't give a damn about you so-called blacks and Hispanics. They don't give a damn about you. Our possessors, which is the so-called white man, kills you in cold blood, murders you in cold blood, and they don't give a damn about it, man. They don't see anything wrong with it, man. Meanwhile, you got the so-called Jews over there in Israel. Like what? Maybe 5 of them died, and the whole world should shut down. The whole world should stop moving for 24 hours because you had 2 so-called white Jews over there in Israel that died. Meanwhile, our people are dying over here daily, man. We're killing each other, and the police department is killing us too, man. So we got enemies everywhere, amongst ourselves and outside of our nation. It's a damn shame, man. Read on.
And they that sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich.
Right, those that sell us, they say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich. That happened during slavery times. The so-called white man sold us, right? And he got rich off of selling us, man, on Wall Street. Because you had slave auctions on daggone Wall Street, man. The so-called white man got rich. All them gigantic plantations down south, like in Louisiana, and Carolina, and Mississippi, they're still standing today, man. Acres and acres and acres of land that was built off the back of slave labor, and now you have rich so-called white people living there, man, reaping all the benefits. Or they make it into a museum and charge you money to go in there and look at your history and what they did to you, man. That's an abomination. Let's bring it up to modern times today, man, because a lot of you so-called Negroes, you think you're free. So let's bring it up to modern times today. Is the white man still selling you? You look at me like, no, he ain't selling me. I'm going to tell you so-called blacks and Hispanics something. I'm not going to expound too deep on it right now because it's going to take me totally off topic. The white man sold you at birth. When he gave you a birth certificate and a social security number, the so-called white man, the elites, the Illuminati, the elites, they sold you to foreign corporations in foreign countries as collateral for the debt that America owes all these other countries. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a fact. So the so-called white man is still selling you to this day. You are the property of the state of America, the country of America, the corporation of America, whatever you want to call it. If you have a birth certificate and a social security number, you are their property, and they're selling you, and they're still getting rich off of you to this day, man. How about that? Read on.
And their own shepherds pity them not.
Right, and our own leadership, a lot of them is aware of this stuff that's going on, but their lips are sealed like chapstick, man. They're not going to say nothing. They're not trying to ruffle no feathers or nothing. All they want to do is to be let in and get a piece of the pie, man. A lot of these leaders, a lot of these pastors, man. A lot of these pastors is so-called Masons, man, on the low. You guys are Masonic as hell, man. All right? From there, go give me the book of Lamentations chapter 2 verse 5. All right? You so-called black people look up to these idiots like Al Sharpton, like Jesse Jackson, like they're your leaders, man. Those guys don't care about you. They sold you out a long time ago. They're not telling you the truth. How you call yourself a reverend and I've never seen you give one sermon in my entire life? I've never seen Jesse Jackson give a sermon. I've never seen Al Sharpton give a sermon. Oh, they'll give a speech? You go to a church, they'll give a speech? Have the whole crowd on their feet stand up and, hey, that's right, that's right, that's right. Get you all worked up. And then at the end of that, what do? They ask you for a donation, man. Donation, right? That's all it's about. They don't have your best interest at heart. They don't care about you. See? Read what you got. Lamentations chapter 2, verse 5.
The Lord was an enemy.
So the Lord became an enemy to us, man. The Lord became an enemy to the nation of Israel. Why? Because we broke the commandments, man, willfully. And didn't have any regrets or remorse about doing it. Go ahead.
He has swallowed up Israel.
Right, the Most High has swallowed us up. How? Through the other nations. The Most High allowed the other nations to come against us. Go ahead.
He hath destroyed his strongholds.
Right, go ahead.
And hath increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentation.
So the Most High has increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentations. Who's the daughter of Judah? You so-called blacks, West Indians, and Haitians, the southern tribes. All right? The Most High has increased in you mourning. That's why I said it again. Every time you turn on the news or the internet, something is happening to you, guys. You killing each other at a rapid rate, or the so-called white man is slaughtering you. But you're getting it from all angles, man. Every nation is against you. Every nation is oppressing you. That's pursuant to Psalms, the 83rd chapter. Every nation hates you. Every nation oppresses you. Every nation makes merchandise of you. Every nation kills you. Every nation hates you. Why? Because you broke the Most High's laws. Jump down to verse 14.
Verse 14. Thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee.
Right, your prophets have seen vain and foolish things to you. What are the vain and foolish things that your prophets have seen? Who are your prophets? Your prophets today will be guys like Creflo Dollar. Your prophets today will be guys like T.D. Jakes. Your prophets today will be guys like some of these so-called white preachers like Paula White and Joel Osteen. What have they seen for you? I'm getting this crap on my timeline on Facebook every time I turn around where T.D. Jakes is making some foolish statement like, I see today that somebody is going to get a blessing where they're going to get a brand new car. All you have to do is post a seed offering. That's a vain vision, man. There's no profit in that vision. All they see is prosperity for you. That's all they see. They don't see that our people are out here sinning and being evil. And that's why the Most High brings judgment down on you. They're not telling our people to repent. All they see is blessings for you. That's all they see. Prosperity for you. What is that? That's mind control. Because when you think that you might get a blessing because you think T.D. Jakes is a man of God, you'll go ahead and sow that seed offering. You'll go ahead and give that last $100 that was supposed to go towards your rent, or that was supposed to go towards your food, and make him rich, and then you can't make ends meet, and you don't get the blessing. And you don't get the blessing. Why don't you get the blessing? Because he didn't tell you the truth, man. He didn't tell you the truth while you're in the condition that you're in. We're telling you the truth. That's why the majority of our people, they don't want to hear what we got to say. Because we ain't got good news for you. The good news, ultimately, in the end, is that Israel is going to get the kingdom. Ultimately, in the end, we're going to be the top nations, and the nations going to be on the bottom. But there's going to be some bumpy roads ahead to get to that point. Because our people ain't repenting. So before you get the kingdom, the Most High is going to wipe 2/3 of this nation out. You have to come back. See? You don't want to hear that. You want to get the kingdom in your wicked estate, man. Why? So we can have allhiphop.com in the kingdom? So we can have World Star Hip Hop in the kingdom? So we can have Instagram in the kingdom, where the so-called black woman has become the whore of the earth on Instagram? Huh? You want to have that in the kingdom, right? You want to go in the kingdom and ain't going to be no Instagram in the kingdom. Sorry.
That's right.
Ain't going to be no Instagram in the kingdom. World Star Hip Hop is going to burn right with America. See? Read that again.
Thy prophets have seen vain and foolish things for thee.
Right, your prophets have seen vain and foolish things for you. What does vain mean? Vain means no value. Whatever these preachers are telling you, there's no value to it because it ain't the truth. Go ahead.
And they have not discovered thine iniquity.
Right, they have not discovered your iniquities, meaning they haven't discovered the real reason why we're in the condition that we're in. They haven't discovered that. Or maybe some of them have discovered it and they just simply ain't telling you. Go ahead.